Hello, everyone. In this video, we are talking about the top 10 supply chain business network platforms for 2025. So let's dive right in.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our number one priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
My name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent, vendor agnostic technology advisory firm. We help our clients with digital transformation strategy, any sort of technology selection, as well as change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is the top 10 supply chain business network platforms in 2020. To give you a sense of what are these business network platforms, for the most part, they are going to be one of the pillars of any of the supply chain suites that you are going to see in the market. In terms of the supply chain suite, you have three different pillars. Generally, they are going to contain the network analytics as well as some sort of execution component, which is going to be your WMS, TMS. Then there are several other modules or the components as part of that suite as well. But for the most part, these are the now, the network is really important, especially when you talk about AI, because the network is also going to produce data. The recruiting, the onboarding of carriers as well as suppliers is going to be much easier. So, in this case, you are not only getting the technical platform, you are also getting the network of suppliers, the vendors that you might need to be able to conduct business. Sometimes these networks are used underneath in a platform. Most of them are going to have some sort of partnerships with the majority of the supply chain platforms or the suites that we have in the market. But if you want to use them for your own supply chain control tower planning, you can get them through these vendors. So some more points as we are going to touch on each of the vendors as well as the systems. So how these platforms differ is some of them are going to have extremely limited capabilities with respect to the kind of ports that they are going to support as well as the geographies that they are able to support. Some of them are primarily slightly more document collaboration centric network, but now they have the network, so they are exposing that not only for the recruitment but also from the analytics perspective. So we have some of those vendors as well. Again, we'll be discussing as we touch on each of the network that we have as part of this quadrant list. One more point to note is there are some networks that are going to be primarily the transportation or the logistics focused. But in this case, we are covering the whole suite, which is going to be the vendor supplier, the value chain, as well as the transportation. So this is sort of the combined suite. There are some suites that are going to be more from the career perspective. Different quad list for that. It is called real-time transportation visibility platform. In this case, you are getting visibility into the entire supply chain. All of the vendors are included here, including your carrier as well as the logistics vendor. To compile this list, we have used several variables. So that is your product share acquisition strategy if that is focused on the supply chain business net platforms, that they generally rank higher on this list. Then we look at product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as the investors. So these are some of the variables. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Pagero. And if you are not familiar with Pagero, this is the primarily the document exchange network for SMBs. And a lot of these platforms were created because they were either slightly more replacement for EDI centric exchange. Some of these networks are EDI based as well. This is not EDI, this is more of the replacement for EDI. So in this case, they have created slightly more cloud native platform to enable the e-invoicing capabilities. But a lot of them that we have as part of this list are created for that purpose as well. And now they are serving as more of the vendor supplier network as well to be able to enable supply chain recruitment, onboarding, as well as collaboration with the vendors. So they cover a lot of different use cases. In this case, this is the document exchange platform, primarily for SMBs. The comparable here is going to be something like OpenText. OpenText is meant for enterprises. They were always into the enterprise space. They did a little bit of enterprise content management as well. But again, this one is a smaller platform. Some strengths to keep in mind is you are going to have much easier vendor onboarding with this platform, just because they already have a lot of these vendors as part of their and that you can recruit them right away. Sometimes their claim is that you can recruit them with one click. So whether it is one click or a couple of clicks, but definitely the onboarding is easier. The other platforms that we have on this list, they might be slightly more legacy. This is a cloud native modern platform, and this is also e-invoicing enabled, which is a huge benefit for countries, especially if they are going to be in the Europe region or in the developing regions, developing countries. For those countries, the e-invoicing is almost mandatory. So these guys are enabling that. Some limitations to keep in mind is this is really limited to document exchange, even though it's a network. It's not a real network that we have on this list. And then they are going to have extremely limited suite capabilities from the supply chain perspective. So if you're looking primarily for network, this might be okay. But if you're looking for complete suite and you want to figure out how each of the supply chain pillar is going to work in your architecture, then you might want to look at some other platforms. And again, it's not a real supply chain business network, even though they have a network, but again, it's not real supply chain business network. That said, it's a great platform, and that's number 10. Number 9 on our list is Chassis Square. And Chassis Square is again prevalent in the European market. They were part of the SAP ecosystem, very focused on that. So they are going to have much tighter integration in the SAP ecosystem. But if you look at other platforms, for example, OpenText does very well in the SAP ecosystem as well. For the most part, they are enterprise platforms, so they are going to have capabilities for SAP, Oracle, etc. So even Tessie Square, they are very tightly coupled with SAP. Some unique scenarios that they are able to accommodate it. For example, when you look at the plain document exchange, e-invoices, etc., that is slightly easier. But when you look at sending things such as drawing, now sending drawing is much heavier lift in general. To be able to send to vendors. So these guys are able to do that. And then they have a little bit of control tower capabilities as well. So those are some of these strengths. Limitations, again, the network is very limited. It's primarily limited to the European market. And because of the limited network, you are going to get a little biased analytics. You are not necessarily going to get the complete picture from the analytics perspective. So that's going to be a little con. And then the suite capabilities are not as robust as some of the other platforms on this list. So that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Alamica. And Alamica was also very carrier centric add-on. It was primarily shipping add-on. So their origin is slightly different compared to the document network. But again, these platforms are used for very similar use cases. So strengths for Alamica is they are very SMB friendly. It's not going to be as big suite, as well as their pricing is going to be SMB friendly. All so that's a huge plus. This one is primarily the carrier centric platform. They were always strong in the logistics side of things. So the actual vendors, the suppliers, the manufacturing suppliers, the engineering vendors, you are probably not going to have those, even though they are covering the similar use cases. It includes the rate shopping. So rate shopping is a very unique module of either TMS or the logistics side of things. So these guys have that. So that's going to be a strength. And then if you look at some of the specific industries, for example, chemical and process centric industries, for these, the kind of processes you are going to have, the kind of document exchange you are, their products are very unique. The quality processes and the document exchange that you are going to require for those quality processes is going to be very unique, and that's where Alamica really shines. Some limitations. Again, even this is not a real supply chain business network, even though they have a lot of carriers as part of their platform. And it's a document exchange and a small shipping software. There are many different shipping software, but they don't necessarily position themselves as the network for Alamica. They are positioning themselves as the network as well. So that's a little limitation there. And then obviously the network is going to be very small for the most part. If you're looking for the carrier centric add-on, then Alamica is going to be a great fit. It might not be the best fit as a business network, but that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is True Commerce. And True Commerce is a very similar positioning, but they are primarily the EDI vendor, and they are probably one of the major EDI vendors, and they always had a big presence, from the EDI perspective. So now some of the strengths to keep in mind is easy connectivity with trading partners, and it's extremely SMB friendly. So those are going to be some of these strengths. The limitations to keep in mind, again, since this is more of the EDI network, it's not necessarily supply chain business network. You cannot use them for your onboarding collaboration, even though you might be able to accomplish some of the collaboration centric scenarios using the EDI messages. But the bottleneck here is the EDI technology. Whatever messages are going to be supported as part of EDI, you are going to have those, but anything over that is probably going to be a challenge with this platform. They are very strong, from the automotive perspective, but that's also a limitation because their network is limited to automotive centric supplier. And in this case, the limited insights and the network size, it's not going to be as big sample size as some of the other platforms on this list. So that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is open text. And open text is a very enterprise grade platform. They were very heavily penetrated from the enterprise content management perspective. They are probably one of the top platform in the enterprise space, and you are going to find them in the SAP Oracle centric ecosystems. But again, their positioning is very similar in terms of the document exchange, in terms of the vendor collaboration. So here, the strengths that you are looking at is the best of breed content management platform for enterprise workloads. They are not only used in the manufacturing distribution centric scenarios, but they are also used by some very regulated verticals, banking, insurance, etc., when they have to exchange the documents. So they are used in a real document exchange scenario, but from the manufacturing distribution perspective, their network is not going to be as strong. So this is a business network for the trading partner collaboration. Again, it's a very similar positioning as any other ones that we have reviewed so far. It's just that these guys are going to be slightly more enterprise focused. Their vendor network is going to be probably much larger. It is probably not friendly for SMBs because of the price tag, because of the complexity of the platform that you are going to get. And then it's also going to be expensive. So that's number 6. Now, number five on our list is Connexus, and they have acquired a company called MPO, and that's how they got their network. Otherwise, they were primarily slightly more SNOP platform, but now because of that, they have the network plus the SNOP capabilities as well. So some strengths to keep in mind is now that the planning plus network is included as part of the suite, so you're going to have much tighter integration. If you're looking for network, if you don't have access to these data sets and you are looking for a partner that can provide these data along with the technology platform, that's going to be the benefit of an Access MPO. And then, especially in the SAP and Oracle, customer base, this one is going to be very complementary because you are getting the data as well. So your planning is going to be much richer. You are not just relying on your own data. You are getting a lot more data that might be missing from your data sets. So that's a huge plus for Connexus MPO. And then when you talk about topics such as your decision grade intelligence, and for decision grade intelligence, you will require much larger sample size from the industry data perspective for you to be able to confidently forecast these data sets. And that's what you are going to get from Connexus. Some limitations to keep in mind is it does not have as strong execution component. If you want execution to be tightly embedded with your network capabilities as well, we have some other suites as part of this quadrant. They are also going to include the execution component, which is your WMS, TMS. But in this case, they are not going to have the execution component. But that loose coupling also helps in some industries where companies don't want to tight couple their planning with the execution component. So it has plus or minus depending upon how you want to design your architecture. The network is not as strong as its competitors. So again, the sample size that you have from the network perspective, it's not as broad, it's not as comprehensive. So that's a little limitation, and that's number five. Number four on our list is supply on. And supply on is also very procurement and supplier collaboration focused vendor. Even though supply own is much bigger than some of the vendors that we have covered so far, but it's not as big as, for example, let's say if you look at Blue Yonder or E2Open or Info Nexus, they are going to have much bigger sample size. So in terms of the sample size, if you look at supply on, then they are going to have roughly 140 companies from 100 countries, and these are the countries or the companies that are providing data to supply on for them to be able to create the comprehensive data that they are able to publish to their customers, and primarily focused on the procurement network as well as e-invoicing. Even these guys are primarily focused on e-invoicing as well, as we have seen with some other vendors on this list. But again, this is a real business network compared to the other ones. Some limitations to keep in mind is it's not SMB friendly. It's going to be slightly more expensive. The planning is going to be weaker, as well as the execution capabilities are going to be weaker as well. It's not necessarily the SNOP platform. It does not have execution component as part of their suite. So depending upon what you're looking for, if you're looking for a business network, this could be a great siloed business network without getting the other capabilities that might not be relevant to you. But if you're looking for a combined suite, this might be right. And again, it's not as comprehensive as the other platform. They have a lot more capabilities in general. So that's number four. Number three on our list is Infor Nexus. And Infor Nexus is very strong from the supplier perspective, from the value chain perspective, among retailers and manufacturers. Those were core verticals for Info Nexus, and it's used by large retailers as well as manufacturers. But for the most part, Info Nexus is not as complete data set either. It's focused on visibility, but again, it's not as complete because of the limitations on their supplier base. The strengths to keep in mind is it is integrated with some other Infor solutions. So it's going to be much bigger suite compared to the other siloed platforms that we have seen so far on this quadrant. The planning integrated with a network similar to Connexus. So in this case, you are going to get network plus planning because they have both. Some of them are going to have only network, so you are at least going to get that. They also have integration with some other components, for example, ERP centric components. But for the most part, it is the visibility platform, and it also has network, which is limited compared to the other. And collaboration, orchestration, as well as global trade compliance and global trade collaboration capabilities are going to be built as part of this platform. So those are some of these strengths. Limitations to keep in mind is the execution component is not going to be as rich. When you compare this with other platform, then they have much richer execution capabilities from the compliance perspective, etc. But Info Nexus is going to be limited in that area. It's not as SMB friendly. Again, it's a very mid market or the upper mid market or the enterprise centric platform. So it might not be as SMB friendly because of the price tag and the capabilities that you are going to have. As part of the platform, and their ecosystem is going to be limited as well. So you might not be able to find the consulting based consultants easily. So that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is Blue Yonder. And the reason why Blue Yonder is on this list is because they have acquired a company called One Network Enterprises. And One Network Enterprises was very strong in this whole multi-party collaboration, risk management, etc. So One Network Enterprises has a very strong network, but again, it's not as strong as something like E2 Open in terms of the sample size. But now they are with Blue Yonder, and Blue Yonder had partnerships with many other platforms on this list as well as outside of this list. So their entire network is going to be much stronger, but One Network Enterprise by itself is not as strong as the other networks that we have on this list. So again, this is probably the strongest overall from the industry-wide collaboration as well as the control tower capabilities. The strengths to keep in mind is it has more than 75 companies in the partner network, which means the 75 companies are emitting this data. When you compare this with supply on and 140 companies, so the sample size is slightly smaller. The telematics enabled control tower. So overall, the data that these companies or the platforms are getting, it is coming from ELD centric initiatives. So everybody has their own sort of networks as well as collaboration, but in this case, they are getting from 75 companies. And again, they have the multi-party bomb tracking, which is the industry centric supply chain capabilities. So that's a huge plus. Limitations to keep in mind is that this is not SMB friendly. The price tag is going to be much higher. And then you are going to have a little lockup with respect to your Blue Yonder acquisition. If your goal is to get only the network piece, then here you are getting the suite as well, just because of that acquisition, as well as the network is not as comprehensive. It's limited. So that's number 2. Number 1 on our list is E2 Open. And E2 Open is probably the most comprehensive platform, and their network is most comprehensive as well, overall, in terms of their presence with respect to different modes, different business models, different geos. So E2 Open is probably the most comprehensive platform. Some strengths to keep in mind is Execution and network, they are part of the suite. So again, if you're looking for a standalone network, then this might not be the best fit. And then you have the cloud native UI as well. That's a huge plus for E2 Open. Limitations to keep in mind is it's expensive. Again, this is meant for enterprise upper mid-market companies, not necessarily SMB friendly. So those are some of the limitations, and that's number one. Now, if you enjoyed this video, we are going to include a detailed report, which is going to have much deeper insight. So you might want to check that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So if you have not checked our YouTube channel, you might want to do that and hit subscribe if you like. This podcast is also available in the audio form on major podcasting channels. On that note, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.